Hi. Okay, guys, today we're going to learn about counting back to subtract and counting on to subtract. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but you will see how it works in just a minute. Now, you guys have already learned how to count on to add, and you do it pretty good. I know that we are still practicing and still learning how to count on to add, and we are practicing to get good at it. But you can also use it to subtract as well. And you guys have been subtracting, but you have been subtracting the smaller numbers or even making a circle drawing to help you do your subtraction. So today we're going to count back to subtract and then count on. And then you can decide which one that you would like to do first. Okay, with that in mind, here we go. So look at the first equation. The first equation says 13 minus 6. When you count back to subtract, you're going to start with a 13 and then you're going to count to the 6. And the spaces in between are your answers, and those spaces are going to be on your fingers. So here we go. We're going to think 13 and we're going to count backwards. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And you see that the number is 7 spaces. We counted from 13 to 6. You heard me speak 6. And so when I got to 6, I stopped with my spaces. So you're thinking of your fingers as the spaces between the two numbers. So I'm going to do it one more time. I think 13, and then I'm going to count backwards. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. And there you see the 7, and that is the spaces between. That is counting backwards. Let's do 14 minus 8 equals blank. Here we go. I'm going to think 14, and I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going to go 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. And I have 6 spaces on my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 spaces. So I started at 14 and I stopped at the 8. And the spaces in between are my fingers. And that's the difference between the two numbers. Because when you're subtracting, you're looking for the difference between the 14 and the 8. And that is the spaces between and how many spaces there are between those two numbers. All right, let's do 14 minus 8 again. We think 14, and we're going to go backwards. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, and it is 6. So you start with the 14. When you speak the 8, you stop, and then you kind of looked at your fingers to see what the difference was between the two. So 14 minus 8 was 6. All right, the next one is 12 minus 7 equals blank. So you're going to start with a 12, and we're going to go backwards. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. I spoke 7, and that's where I stopped. I look at my fingers. I have 5. That's 5 spaces. There's 5 spaces between 12 and 7. Let me do it again. 12, I think the 12, and then I start counting backwards from there. So I think 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and I get 5. And that's the space between those numbers. That is what you do when you count back. So when you count back, you think the first number, you count backwards, and the second number in the equation You stop, you'll speak it, and then you'll look at your hands. So 12 minus 7. And when I counted backwards, I had 5 fingers up. That's my 5 spaces. So 12 minus 7 equals 5. Now, counting back can be tricky. The way our brain works is that it's a lot easier for us to count forward and to count on. And so when I say, oh, you're going to count on to subtract, you're probably thinking, what? What? But it actually is pretty quick and easy because all you're still doing is going from one number to another number and finding the spaces in between. So you can go either direction because no matter when you are subtracting, all you need to know is the spaces between those two numbers. So you can count back just like we did, or we can actually count on if counting on is easier for you. So when I count on, all right, you are going to start with the smaller number and count to the bigger number. All right, so 13 minus 6, I'm going to count on from 6 to the 13th. So I'm going to think 6, and I'm going to go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I see my spaces, and my spaces are 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I had 7 spaces. And all I did was count forward. And I already know how to count on. We've already done that. So let's try it again. Look at 13 minus 6. I'm going to start with a 6 and count on to the 13. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And the difference is 7. There's 7 spaces between 13 and 6. All right, let's do 14 minus 8. We're going to think the smaller number, which is 8. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And my answer is 6. 14 minus 8 is 6. There's 6 spaces between 14 and 8. So it doesn't matter if I'm counting back or counting forward between those two numbers. The spaces between those two numbers is the difference in a subtraction equation. All right, now let's do 12 minus 7 equals blank. So here we go. 12 minus 7. I'm going to think 7, which is the smaller number. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the answer is 5 spaces. 7 minus 7, 12 minus 7 equals 5. The difference is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, that is how many spaces is between 12 minus 7, but I actually use the counting on instead of the counting back. I can use either. Okay, so let me do the counting on one more time so you can see. You think 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the answer is 5. So you can use the strategy counting back to subtract or counting on. Pick one that you think is easier for you, that works for you. But what you need to know is you're still working between those two numbers because you're finding what's between those two numbers. So what I want you to do is to keep practicing and find the strategy that works for you. And good luck. Bye.